Hey guys, Super Godzilla Final Wars here, and today I am back once again with another video. Today we're going to be going over the theory on what if the ultimasaurus was in the Jurassic franchise. Now, for those of you who don't know what the ultimasaurus is, I'm just going to go ahead and explain. It is stated to be the real first genetic modified made hybrid. Yes, it is in fact the real first hybrid in the Jurassic franchise. It has the DNA of a T-Rex, Velociraptor, Ankylosaurus, Triceratops, and from what I heard, Stegosaurus and Therizinosaurus. That's for what I heard. I don't know if I don't know if that is entirely true. And it's also stated to be the strongest hybrid dinosaur in history, even surpassing that of the Indominus Rex and being far bigger, more massive, and just overall more deadly than the Indominus Rex itself, which is just crazy, honestly. To imagine that something could be worse than the Indominus. Like, the Indominus Rex was a pretty terrifying villain in her own solo movie, but just to imagine something worse than her, that's like saying that there is a kaiju that's worse than Godzilla. Now, let's discuss on what if this monster was created, and what if he was in the Jurassic films, both the park movies and the world movies. And hell, I'll even add a cherry on top and I'll include the series. Except for Chaos Theory, because that takes place in between the events after Fallen Kingdom and before the events of Dominion. So, Chaos Theory will be left out of the way. And Season 4 and 5 will be left out of the way too, because I'm also looking at Isla Nublar. So let's discuss what would happen if this monster was in the Jurassic franchise. Let's go back and let's say before the events of Jurassic Park even began. Dr. Wu decided to take dinosaur cloning into a whole new level. He wanted to create something more dangerous than a T-Rex, even more dangerous than a Giganotosaurus and Spinosaurus. And that monster being the ultimasaurus. And let's say that John Hammond was unaware about this dinosaur's existence. Like, he had no clue that this animal existed. And let's say that when Dr. Wood decided to release the Ultimasaurus, things went downhill really quickly because he saw how hyper-aggressive this animal is. It was even more aggressive than the Scorpius Rex itself. And literally almost killed every single dinosaur on Isla Sorna. And it took years for the island to recover. Now let's say that during the events of Jurassic Park, The Lost World, the island was still recovering from the Ultimasaurus' rampage. It took like weeks in order to tranquilize the animal. And Dr. Wood decided to hid the creature away and did the exact same thing what he did with the Scorpius Rex. Freeze it. And he had to make up a story to John Hammond to explain on why the ultimasaurus dinosaur population was cut down drastically, and staff members be missing. Let's say that he tells them that there was a severe disease, and some of the dinosaurs died due to the disease. Dr. Wu was so terrified at his creation of the ultimasaurus that he flat out did not want to make any more hybrids until Jurassic World's early days. Like, say, when he makes the Scorpius Rex and later on the Indominus Rex. For years, Dr. Wu would pay visits to Isla Nublar, where he secretly hid the dinosaur away from John Hammond's eyes, and he paid visits to the creature, making sure it was still frozen. Even when the island became abandoned after the events of Jurassic Park, he still paid visits in order to make sure this animal was kept away from human eyes. And he hoped that if he ever did make a hybrid in the near future, he hoped it would be less, well, evil like the ultimasaurus is. Because the ultimasaurus was flat out evil. It was a monster, a demon. It didn't not only kill animals, but it took pleasure in doing so. Hell, he literally tortured all the dinosaurs in very horrific ways. That wasn't until the events of Jurassic World, where during the Jurassic World's earlier days, is when he created the Scorpius Rex. That turned out to be another failure. And as a result, he has to freeze the creature, but where he knew where he and a few other scientists know where the creature was, only he knew where the ultimasaurus was. And as a result, he had to result in creating the Indominus Rex. And yes, while the Indominus Rex did aid its sibling, he still hoped that it would have a much better behavior status than basically the Ultimasaurus and Scorpius Rex. But unfortunately, he didn't realize that he created a hyper-intelligent dinosaur. A dinosaur that's so intelligent that it even knew how to build, well, not only build a way to get out, but it also formed a plan and to not only trick the humans, but to make them believe that she's a dumb animal. And let's say that in this alternative universe, Dr. Wu, at this point, was wanting to release the Ultimasaurus in order to stop the Indominus Rex. But he remembered how much damage the Ultimasaurus caused. If he released the Ultimasaurus, he would cause even worse damage to Jurassic World than what the Indominus Rex is doing. Eventually, Jurassic World was evacuated for good, and the Indominus Rex's reign over the island was cut short when Blue and Rexy teamed up in order to defeat the Indominus Rex. And of course, the Mosasaurus being want to finish this job, the Indominus. However, a certain group of newborn kids were still stuck on the island full of dinosaurs. And this same group of kids will eventually awaken the Scorpius Rex, but at the same time unintentionally awakening the Ultimasaurus in the process. In this series, in this universe, the events of Season 3 of Camp Cretaceous still play out to the original, only this time the campers discover unknown files, and at first they couldn't figure out what these unknown files were, until eventually Brooklyn was managed to figure out what these unknown files were, and she even discovered the fact that Dr. Wu made a hybrid way before Jurassic World was even built, and way before Jurassic Park was even officially a thing. This hybrid ended up being the ultimasaurus. Brooklyn and the others watched a video about Dr. Wu who explained about what the ultimasaurus was, and they even were horrified when they saw its destructive capabilities, and what it did on Isla Sorna. At this time, Isla Sorna had finally recovered out of the ultimasaurus's reign of terror over the island. But now, history was going to repeat itself, because they unintentionally not only released the Scorpius Rex, but they also released the Ultimasaurus in the process. The monster breaks out of its cage, and it starts to wreak havoc on the island. At first, the campers believed that Rexy might be able to take it down. But due to it being not only bigger than the Indominus Rex and far stronger, they highly doubt that Rexy will be able to defeat the Ultimasaurus. The campers also started to believe that maybe the Mosasaurus might be able to stop the Ultimasaurus. However, when they do try the Mosasaurus, the Ultimasaurus is not stupid and actually figures out what the campers are trying to do. Surprisingly, the Ultimasaurus is not causing any chaos or destruction on the island, but instead, he's trying to leave the island. This is because not only is he wanting to go back to his original homeland, but he also sensed that the volcano will soon erupt, and he's trying to leave it. Leave the island before it's too late. Eventually, the Ultimasaurus does encounter the Scorpius Rex, or Scorpirexes, and the two Scorpius Rexes decided to team up in order to fight the Ultimasaurus, only for them to get killed in the process. The Ultimasaurus flat out tears them to shreds. Only leaving their mangled bodies behind. And the Ultimasaurus eventually leaves the island and makes its way towards Isla Sorna.